Hey there YouTube, how's it going? This is Adam and this is the third Sega Saturn that I'm going to try and see what I can do with. So this one, I've identified a couple of problems. When I try and start it up, firstly the disc just doesn't spin. The laser moves, I think, but it doesn't spin. Additionally, the power button won't stay on, so that's another issue. And lastly, if you notice this whole I don't want to touch anything, this portion moves, so one of these legs is actually broken, so I'm not getting a good connection. So there's a few problems here. First and foremost, I want to fix the laser. That is easy. I'm just going to have to get a new part and solder it in. The power switch, I'm going to order a new power switch. They cost about $4. Not a big deal. The laser, let's see what we can do with here. So I'm going to press the power, and I unfortunately have to hold it, otherwise it won't stay. So it boots up here. I'm going to have to quickly, using my toes, select language. Alright, so now we're loading into the Sega Saturn screen, but still no action here. The disc is not spinning, the laser isn't moving. I question if it's really getting power or not. So there's a few things that we're going to look for here. Firstly, I'm going to make sure all the connections are clean. Make sure that this power cable to the laser assembly is properly hooked up. Make sure that we're getting a connection through the data cables. See, it says checking disk format, but this laser hasn't moved a millimeter. So there's no sense keeping this going. We'll turn it off, and I'm going to start disassembling this, and I'm going to show you what we cleaned. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Alright, so I've disassembled this particular console. We've gotten right down to the main board, so a couple of things that I want to check for. Firstly is this ribbon connector. I want to make sure that this is getting the proper connection. So the first thing to do is using a Q-tip, using some 99% isopropyl alcohol, we're just going to clean all the metal contacts on each side. So I'm going to take this out. I'm even going to disconnect it right from the main board here. Clean the bottom, clean the top. This connects the controllers, and that's not an issue. I'm still going to give this a scrub, but I'm going to leave it plugged in here. I'm going to clean those. We're going to kind of loosely assemble it, and we'll see if that makes any difference. Alright, so I've got it all reassembled mostly. I haven't screwed it all together, but it's in place. Everything's connected, and I'm going to turn it on. So I've got it plugged in. I don't have it hooked up to a TV. I'm not looking to get picture at this moment. What I'm looking for is whether this laser moves. So we're going to turn it on, and we still get no action from the laser. So it should normally move up and down, try and scan for a disc, and it's just not doing that. So obviously something is no good here. I have a couple of options. Firstly, I don't trust this power supply, so I'm going to try and see if I can pull one from another unit, see if that makes any difference. Yeah, that'll be the next step. If not, I can try swapping out the laser assemblies and see if that makes any difference as well. Possible that that motor's dead, but we will see, I guess. Okay, so I've got it all hooked up to the TV. Let's hit the power and see what happens. So the laser's moving, but we got to go through this menu here. I don't think it's seeing the disc. And drive empty. So it doesn't think there's a disc in place. I'm going to fiddle around with this laser bit, try and adjust the how high the disc sits, and see if that makes any difference. Alright, so I think I may have this. What I did here was swap out the little disc spindle assembly that it actually sits on. If you watch the previous video of the Saturn that was heavily corroded, this was actually kind of warped, so the disc was wobbling when I press play. Now when I push power, it turns on and the disc spins right away, and it spins smoothly, so that looks good. Let's see what we get. And again, since I have to change this every time, that battery in the back is going to need replacing, but that's a very easy fix. Okay, so far so good. And we're booting into the game, so number 3 is working. So it turned out to be a couple of things. The power supply was shot. If you recall, actually the whole port where the power plug went into was broken, so it wasn't getting a good connection, so it just may not have been getting enough power onto the board to actually spin the disc. Additionally, the power switch was broken. It wasn't staying in the on position, so I grabbed that out of the first generation version, and it seems to be working perfectly now. You might note on this particular model, you see there's a spot right here, and it says, it's hard to read, but I'm going to try and get the shadow out of there. It says LED red right in there. Right there, LED red on the board. The first generation versions of this system had a red LED that popped up that said access. The second generation don't, and this is a second gen, so this must be an early second gen where they borrowed a lot of the same components. So as you see, the power supply board, this is from a first gen, the switch is the same, this assembly is the same for the controller ports, just they didn't install the LED. The reset switch there is again the same position as the other one, so I guess we lucked out in that regards that I was able to harvest parts from both of them. So let's just make sure this works. It seems to be responding. It's reading information quite well. Load times are pretty good, so this seems to be a good fix. So I'm very happy with this. So that was the fourth and final Sega Saturn that I bought. I was able to get 3 of them working. One of them was so badly corroded that it really doesn't have much of a chance. But I'm very happy with that. For $40, I got 3 Sega Saturns and one that I was able to harvest parts for to get this repaired. So, yeah, I encourage you all, take a look, see what you can do. You can always, it seems pretty easy to find stuff online that's working, just people don't know how to make it work. As you saw in these videos, there wasn't really anything I did that was overly technical. I didn't have to go solder anything onto the board. I didn't have to replace any small components. They were all mainly plug-and-play parts, like a power supply, a power switch, that type of deal. So these are things you can do yourself. I highly recommend you do so. I got into doing this really just as a way to increase my collection, and then on the side I can sell some of the extras, make some cash to further my collection. So it is a good way to go. But thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, subscribe to my feed, so when I release more videos, when I buy more stuff, show you how to fix it, you'll be the first to see. Thanks a lot.